Good morning, traders. How are we doing today? I hope you guys are doing really good. It's Monday. It's Thanksgiving week. I can't believe it's Thanksgiving already. That is insane. So we've got a bit of a shorter week this week. Markets are closed on Thursday. Markets have a half day on Friday. So do keep that in mind with all of your trading plans. If you're buying weekly options, don't forget about that fact. Fridays, we'll see what this Black Friday is like. I would anticipate potentially that the market might be kind of slow, but how are you guys doing? How was your weekend? Hopefully you're all well. Hopefully you had a nice weekend. I was kind of glued to Twitter all weekend watching this ChatGPT, Sam Altman, Microsoft saga unfold, as probably quite a few of you were, because, you know, it had the opportunity to affect markets pretty profoundly. But it looks like Microsoft came out on top. They took them, and looks like they're going to get a lot of that team too. So pretty interesting stuff happening over the weekend. And now all eyes are on King NVIDIA. Obviously, NVIDIA has earnings tomorrow. So I thought I would take the first little bit of the show and kind of talk through a few things that I'm noticing. The first thing that I noticed, you know, we like to keep our eyes on seasonality, how to gauge expectations. November, strongest performing month of the year historically since 1999. This is the entirety of NVIDIA's life, 25 years. November is the strongest performing month. It's tied with August, to be fair. 76% win rate. Mean change in November, 11.1%. It's a pretty big move for November. And when we look back, let me show you guys this, something that I noticed. I very, very quickly ran a test. So let me set this up again. I should have just saved it. Within the next, we'll say like 25 days, we'll get out of this trade. I'm just going to set it up real quick, and then I'll talk through what I'm doing here within the next one day. So essentially, this idea buys the earnings run up. We're buying 25 days before earnings, and we're selling the day before earnings. And something that I found in doing this was the past two Novembers. That's November of 2022 and November of 2021. Look at these earnings run-ups into November earnings. Back in October 2021, this move, 25 days before, 26.8% move into that earnings announcement. And then you had October 2022, 25 days into this November earnings announcement, 27.32% move. Well, where are we at right now, percentage-wise? Grab my percentage drawing tool. Off of those lows to where we are right now, we're at about 27, 28% from the October lows. So I show you this to kind of suggest like a move like this in November coming into earnings is actually pretty standard. It's happened the past 2 years, been huge moves. We could go back and look farther. Here's your November move. So this, the 2020 move, quite muted in comparison, but the past two November quarterly earnings reports have been, we've seen huge moves. So this is just on par with what's happened historically. I thought that was pretty interesting. I don't know if any of you guys have noticed that or tooled around on it. On the monthly, actually, let's save this real quick. NVIDIA earnings. If you did not know that you could utilize the strategy tester to gauge earnings run-up expectations, now you know. A couple things that I saw here. First up, let's remove, well, actually, we'll just show you this. First thing I saw, huge bearish divergence on RSI. Perhaps it doesn't matter. We know that price can correct over time as well, but it's something to keep an eye on. Huge bearish divergence on RSI. We are trading right at the 1.618 fib from the all-time high. So this extension here. So this is kind of the key level. To me, this is the key level to gain for the bulls. I mean, they're kind of gaining it now. They're trading above it right now, this 493.5. So that's kind of a key spot. It's been trouble for the past couple of months, August and September, and here we are right back at it. And if they can continue higher, that 200% extension looks like it's got a big target on it to me. I don't know. What are you guys thinking? On the daily here, there were a couple of things that I noticed. If we pull up insider trading, I thought this was kind of interesting. Jensen Huang, CEO. We haven't seen any selling from him all year. So there's nothing here. Like, he got awarded some shares, but no selling. And then last quarter, pretty much the first 2 weeks of September, really right off of the earnings announcement in August, from September 1st through September 14th, he was a seller. So this whole section of the chart was where he was selling. He sold about $14 million worth of shares per day. And he did that for about, what, 8 days, 9 days or so. So we sold like 120 million or something in shares. There's quite a few, quite a few bucks. I don't know if that's quite a few bucks for him, but it's quite a few bucks. So it's kind of interesting that he was selling off of that earnings report. It was a big one. If we want to see what the historical earnings have looked like, we can come into the assistant here, type in NVIDIA earnings. Oops, not NVIDIA earnings strategy. See all earnings for NVIDIA. Here we go. So we had a beat. So here's all of your NVIDIA earnings data. What's up, you guys? Say hello. There's a few of you in here. It's Monday morning. We're just kind of kicking the cobwebs off from the weekend. Curious to know where y'all's heads are at. What are you thinking? What are you watching today? But we are still holding, you know, this is, I'm an anchored VWAP guy. I know many of you are. So when we anchor to that May earnings gap up, huge power earnings gap, they've managed to really kind of hold the line here, you know, a couple of times trading below it, but they do continuously regain it. So that's good for the bulls. You've got the 150 SMA as well. It was your big key level for the bounce back in October. So really this anchored VWAP and this 150 SMA kind of between like 415 and 440. This is kind of going to be your area to hold if they do pull back, if, you know, maybe earnings come out not as good as expected, or maybe they bought the run up here and they're going to sell it off. Keep your eye on these two levels, kind of this area, because obviously the 150 is key and that anchored VWAP from the power earnings gap is key. Got a huge gap below left. Actually, let me go back really quick to the strat tester here, because I want to highlight something that I neglected to highlight initially. And we know that this move in November is relatively normal. We've seen moves like this the past 2 Novembers. But then what happened after? Well, in 2021, things went really downhill. That kind of marked the top of that move. And we sold off, really, for a year. And for all intents and purposes, we sold off for an entire year post that 2021 move. And then post the 2022 move, all we've done is grind higher. So this could end up being, you know, if history is any example, and we're just talking about 2 years of data here, so, you know, we want to temper our expectations in this way. It's just 2 data points. but there is a lot of similarity, right, in the amount and time in the amount that price has moved and the time it's taken it to do so. So it'd be really interesting to see. Maybe this earnings report is a big inflection point and we get some big directional move out of it. I mean, in theory, we have been kind of consolidating sideways for the past 2 quarters. So really since May. It's all coming to a head, and it'll be interesting to see how this affects the markets. Obviously, you have to assume that this is going to have a real strong effect on markets. How does this affect, or how does everything that's going on with Microsoft affect NVIDIA here? You have to assume maybe it affects it to some degree. That is a little outside of my pay grade. I don't have a complete full understanding of all the fundamentals of these companies and how one affects the other. But that's a big shakeup for OpenAI, bringing Altman and sounds like quite a bit of the OpenAI team over to Microsoft. Sounds like they had a petition of like 500 employees said they were gonna. Essentially, Microsoft's been offered them jobs, so they've petitioned the board at OpenAI and said either all of you guys leave or we leave. So OpenAI could be like non-existent in a short amount of time, which would be kind of crazy. So that's kind of what I'm seeing. We could pop into unusual options and see if there's anything there. And I'm going to filter this just a little bit. Y'all know me. I like to filter for sweeps. And we'll look for add ask. Because these are going to be the most conviction. So we're looking at premium size. This one's a pretty big one. 8.5% open interest, $692,000. For the December 01s. 10 days till expiry, $500 strike. Bullish positioning there. Here's a big one that came in on Friday. What time did it come in? Really only a small percent of the open interest, though. This one's for the November 24, 450 call. So that one's already paying, presumably. What's up, guys? Please say hello. I'm talking to myself. I'm talking out into the ether. I would love to know who's here. Introduce yourself. Are you a TrendSpider trader? Are you considering becoming a TrendSpider trader? Are you interested in any of the features or tools that are found on the platform? We had a bunch of folks sign up over the weekend, so perhaps 1 or 2 of you are brand new subscribers and would like to maybe learn a thing or two. I'm here to assist you guys with whatever you're curious about. So hit me with what you got, question-wise. What else do we have coming up on earnings? I actually don't know. I imagine there's not much left. That's very important. But I really don't know. Baidu tomorrow. Autodesk is tomorrow. Futu is Tuesday, looks like. Yep. Yeah, so really the big one of the week is NVIDIA. Let's check over here, NYSE. Y'all are a quiet bunch today, I gotta say. Medtronic coming tomorrow. What else is this? Abercrombie & Fitch tomorrow. The stock has been a monster over the past couple of quarters. American Eagle. It's bringing me back to my middle school days. John Deere. On the 22nd. You got Lowe's here tomorrow. So there are a few bigger names. Dick's Sporting Goods tomorrow. Big gap to fill above. Interesting. So I don't know, where are y'all's heads at? What are you guys thinking? I need somebody to vibe with. Let's talk shop. SPY getting into this big order block area here. Ooh, and you got a big gap. NVIDIA earnings probably going to be the thing to close that. You've also got this. You've got this big daily fair value gap order block whole scenario going on the Qs up to 396. Qs are now, how far off from all-time highs are we? 5% off of all-time highs. Pretty darn impressive. Yeah, the order blocks here. So we're through this one now. And we've just got this guy above. How are the smalls looking? Faria, what's up, Lioness? How we doing? How can I sync crosshairs on all three charts? Unfortunately, it's not possible. I hate to say that, but unfortunately, that is not possible to do. We just had another request for that. I just saw it just the other day. So what I'll do is I'll just throw in that request one more time for you on your behalf. All right, I've just made that request for you, for Rhea. Hopefully I'm saying that name right. Arnab, predictions for NVIDIA earnings. Well, we spent a little time talking about it. Freya, I will tell you that I don't absolutely know. And again, I hate to not have a clear answer for you here. But it is something that we've just gotten some requests for just recently. So I've included your request as well. Hopefully we can make that happen. But again, I honestly cannot tell you exactly when that might come. No problem at all, though. Arnab, so thoughts for NVIDIA. kind of did this at the top of the show, but if you weren't here at the very beginning, there's a handful of items, right? And generally whenever I'm doing analysis, I'm going to start with like a top-down kind of approach. So from what I can tell, it could kind of go either way. That's my expectation, is it could kind of go either way. And I know that that's not a great answer, but it's true. And here's kind of why I suspect it could really go either way. Like sometimes I do have a little bit of a bias, but in this case, I am really uncertain. So here on the monthly, we're trading right up into that 1.618 fib extension. Obviously, this has been a key level for a handful of months. So this is going to be the big spot. We're trading above it right now, which is good for the bulls. You know, you don't want to see it getting rejected right at that. And this is the 1.618 from the previous all-time high down to the 2022 lows. This is a big level. If they can gain this, that's huge. So watch that 493 and a half, 494 area like a hawk, because it's really a big spot to if it pulls back, there's really a big spot for it to hold, just because it's been such a level. I mean, the 618 extension, or the 1.618, is a huge extension. You know, everybody watches that extension, so it's not a surprise to see it like pausing here, but now we got to see it gain. You do have a huge RSI divergence, bearish RSI divergence on the monthly here, and this has been building for, you know, since November 2021 highs. What does it mean? I mean, you know, RSI divergences can play out and they cannot play out. So we don't want to like expect that it's just going to fail, but it is something to consider that as we've made these new all-time highs, RSI isn't participating in that as well. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It's just something to keep an eye on. If we drop down to the weekly here, actually, I'll just drop down to the daily, because there's kind of more to see on the daily. First piece is you had insider selling. You had Jensen Huang, the CEO, sold for a handful of days in September, right off of the heels of the previous earnings report. So, you know, why does a CEO sell? They sell for all kinds of different reasons. You know, maybe he needed to buy a new yacht or something. He didn't sell a ton, like 120-ish million or so, something thereabouts. 90, let's see. So it was 80, 90, 92, 96, 98, like 108, 109, 110 million in shares, something like that. Or $110 million worth of shares that he sold in September. And we haven't seen any selling from him all year. Our insider data goes back a year, and we don't have any other sells from him. We have instances where he was awarded a lot of shares, but not any instances of him selling. So this is the first time we've seen selling in a year from the CEO of NVIDIA, which, again, take it with a grain of salt, I think, but it's something to keep in the back of your mind. They held the 150 SMA. They're holding the anchored VWAP from the big gap up 2 quarters ago. So in my opinion, kind of like this area is the area to keep a close eye on. If it does pull back, you would want to see support kind of through in here between 415, 440. I know that's a pretty wide area, but it's kind of where I'd be looking for it, below these 2 levels. And then I think maybe things start getting a little dicey. You obviously have a huge gap to fill, 366 down to 310 or so. I don't know if you were here for the little bit of strategy testing that I did, but I ran a strategy test on earnings run-ups. So 25 days ahead of earnings, we're getting long, and then we're selling the day before. And what piqued my interest specifically was this one and this one here. And the reason why they piqued my interest was because this is the October into the November earnings run up. So this is 2021. And in that time, you gained 27%, right? And this marked the high of 2021. And then we just continued lower for a year, essentially. And then in 2022, you marked the low. We ran 27-ish%, and then we've just continued running ever since. So both of these are November earnings, and both of them saw huge moves to the upside, 27% or so each. Well, same idea here. Off of the lows, we're at about 25-26% right now on this move. So it's acting how it likes to act in Novembers. It's acting exactly how it's acted the past 2 Novembers, which is pretty interesting. If you look at seasonality, November, strongest performing month of the year historically over the past 25 years with a 76% win rate, tied with August. Mean change, though, in November is quite higher than the mean change in August. You've got 11.1% mean change in November, 8.24% in August. So, again, it's acting how you would expect it to act, especially over the past couple of years. What did it do after this move? Again, we just said it. It sold off for a full year, but then after this move, it essentially gained for a year. Maybe this is a big inflection point for NVIDIA. I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. I don't have any predictions. It's hard. You see how the weight of the evidence kind of is pretty measured on both sides. You've got the CEO selling. You've got big bearish divergence on RSI. But on the daily, you're holding key levels. The other thing that I've seen quite a few traders talking about is the potential that the past 2 quarters is just a giant Wyckoff distribution model. If you're not familiar with a Wyckoff distribution model, let me get you an asset to check out because we've made a video on it, and it's a pretty darn good video. I might be a little biased. But to know Wyckoff, in my humble opinion, to know Wyckoff is a very vital tool as a trader. To understand Wyckoff distribution and accumulation is a very, very powerful thing to understand because this occurs on all time frames. This causes many of the chart patterns that you're used to looking for, be it head and shoulders or inverse head and shoulders, these sorts of things. It's just, and it's a very, very old principle. This wasn't developed yesterday. Wyckoff distribution accumulation models are old. We're talking like a century old. So this is how price action works. It takes lots of different forms. It's not always perfect, but there absolutely is an argument to be made for a bit of a Wyckoff distribution look here. And if that's the case, then we would expect potentially one more new high and then an instant failure. But if it does end up playing out and this turns out to be actually Wyckoff distribution, the move is going to be swift is what I would anticipate personally. I would anticipate like a quick pop within a pretty instantaneous drop, potentially some support in and around the anchor VWAP, the 150 SMA, where they've liked holding it so far, but ultimately a move to take out all of the lows and maybe come in to test some of this gap. Perhaps they don't send it all the way back through the bottom of the gap. Perhaps somewhere they bounce it and they come back into the distribution area. Again, I cannot recommend enough studying Wyckoff accumulation distribution to kind of gauge these ideas on your own. But this is like what you would be looking for. You'd be looking for a move up and out that fails instantly, comes back into the range. You get a little bounce somewhere, but ultimately they take out the whole range, highs and lows. And then at some point they bounce it back into the range and you find some resistance at some point here. And maybe by this time, what you've got, who knows? I don't know what this looks like, but maybe at some point you have something that you have your anchored VWAP that does something like this, right? You see Brian Shannon drawing these sorts of ideas all the time. You have your 150 day that does something like this, and you find some resistance. Initially, it acts as support here, breaks through, and then acts as resistance. Now, if that happens, who knows? I'm not going to say that's going to happen because I don't know. I'm just highlighting things that I'm seeing other traders point to that kind of makes sense to me. So that's my thoughts. Is there a way to scan for RSI MACD divergence? Of course. So let's first do this. So one thing that you can do is you can come up to your script manager here. I'm going to show you really quickly how to see this again. Go to Visual Scripts, type in RSI divergence, and you will have samples. RSI hidden divergence, bearish and bullish, RSI divergence, bearish, RSI divergence, bullish. You can select this. It pre-builds the script for you. You click send to, and send it where you want to send it to. Send it to your market scanner. I'm going to click the current candle toggle on. I want to see this occurring right now. I select my drop-down list, and we run our scan. And we'll see what comes up. Yeah, Adam, it's a pleasure. I really enjoy doing these sessions. And you know, as you say, it's a great opportunity for folks to ask questions and get answers pretty much instantly. We also offer, just so that you're aware, obviously I'm not live all the time, but right here, this contact us button, let me make it so you can't see me real quick. This contact us button right here, this is a direct feed into our employee. Scanners are slow. Okay, good to know. Yeah, because I see that happening. This is a good way to know exactly what's going on. If there is an issue that you're noticing on the platform, oftentimes a status report will appear right here on Contact Us. If you have any questions for our team, these guys are live in chat every single day, Monday through Sunday. Every single day, 7 days a week. I think on weekdays, it's like 20-ish hours per day. And then on the weekends, it's a little bit less than that. It's not a full 20. But these guys are live every single day answering customer questions. If ever you guys have questions and I'm not around to answer them, you can always reach out here and they will answer you. Oh, interesting. No RSI divergence here on the S&P 500. That's kind of wild. Let's see. Now, to be fair, it is worth remembering and it is worth considering that these are very specific conditions that we're looking for, right? We are looking for where it says candles ago. This is how we define what candles we're referring to. With RSI divergence, it's kind of loose, right? You're looking for, in a bearish RSI divergence, you're looking for higher prices and lower RSI values to go with those higher highs. But when those things occur is relative to the trader, right? So we've created a basic idea, a template that says RSI on the current candle is less than RSI 5 candles ago. RSI 5 candles ago is less than RSI 10 candles ago. RSI 10 candles ago is less than RSI 15 candles ago. Now, those are all very exact, right? Those are all specific candles we're referring to. We've picked 3 candles. Well, 4. The current one, 5, or the current one, 5 candles ago, 10 candles ago, 15 candles ago. 4 different candles. And so the conditions are very specific, which means the idea is specific. And there could be other divergences out there that don't quite meet this criteria, but are still divergence, right? It may be, maybe instead of 5 candles ago, it's less than 4 candles ago, you know? So all that to say, this is made for you to expand upon. Change these values to whatever you want. You could also say happened within, and you could say, you know, 30 candles. I don't know what kind of window you would want, maybe 5 candles. And that way, at least you're giving yourself a window. It could be 5 candles, 6 candles, 7 candles, 8 candles, 9 candles ago, right? And you can move those values around a little using that happened within option. But again, this is just a basic idea. The more specific you get with it, the harder it's going to be to get results, as you would expect. So sometimes being a little bit looser with it is kind of the way to go. But it's really up to you. It's really, really up to you. The simplest way that I could think to do something like this is I would just say, I would use 2 conditions, and I would say, I'll use GPT conditions for this so you guys can see. I'll say RSI greater than, or less than RSI. This is going to create that little condition for me that just says RSI is less than RSI. So I don't have to script it myself. And then I can come here and I can change the value. So we'll just say RSI right now is less than RSI 20 candles ago. And then I'll say price, or maybe, I don't know. We'll say close greater than close. And then we'll make this 20 candles ago. So this is just talking about right now relative to 20 candles ago for both RSI and the closing price. And because these conditions are a lot looser, right? They're not as specific. See how we get quite more results. So Nike, you've got a bit of RSI divergence here on Nike. And again, you know, it's not always perfect. You might not always see exactly what you're after. And that's why we always say, you know, take the time and think through the idea that you have, and try and get it as close to the thing that you're actually looking for as you can get it. And again, if you're having trouble with putting this together, you can always reach out to us. You can hit me up, you know, if you have questions, if you have specific questions. You can hit me up on Twitter. There's my handle at Krutzky Trades. Feel free to shoot me a follow. Feel free to DM me. My DMs are open. You can always reach out to me if you're ever curious about anything, and I can kind of help you. But really, really feel free to lean on the support team. That is what they're there for. If you need help with scripting something, or you need help with where to find a particular tool or how to build a particular strategy or whatever it may be, the assistant also is going to be a friend. The assistant is, if you haven't played around with it yet, it is... We're utilizing AI to help you navigate the platform. So you can do things like type in indicators and add those indicators to your chart just with a click of a button. You saw I just typed in VWAP and added VWAP to my chart. Well, I could also come in and type like test MACD cross, and it's going to know what that is, or know what I'm asking it to do. It'll open up the strategy tester, load up MACD cross conditions, start testing them on the name that I'm looking at. So like the assistant is a really, really, it's a great way to learn where things are on the platform and how to navigate the platform, because it's really going to like take you to the things that you're looking for. It may not take you to absolutely every last thing, but it's a great start. And also, going back to visual scripts here, visual scripts are a great place to start too. Again, like MACD divergence, bearish MACD divergence, bullish MACD divergence. These are pre-built, available in your accounts, in your script manager, and you can select it. And again, click send to. You could create alerts off of this. You can utilize this. You could send this to your strategy tester as entry or exit criteria. You could send it to the market scanner. You could send it to the sidebar in the smart checklist. If you're not familiar with smart checklist, let's talk about it really quick, because darn it, the smart checklist is really cool. So smart checklist allows you to load, think of it as like a giant indicator that you can script on your own for any condition that you might be looking for, or maybe even better said, any condition that might be really important to you. Price conditions, indicator conditions, candlestick pattern conditions, and so on. You can load all kinds of things in here. You can use up to 4 different time frames, and you can use it as a way of instantly seeing if the conditions that you like to trade are true right now or not. So if I'm just looking at this, I'm looking at a 5-minute chart of a name I don't know. And I know instantly that 3 out of 4 of those bearish MACD conditions are true. It tells me this. I don't have to look at the chart and find out. I don't have to turn on these indicators to see. It just tells me. And now extrapolate that out into something more complex. Let me go to an example checklist here. So here's a pretty complex one. I'll go back to the conditions. So what is this all looking for? This is looking for lots of things. This is looking for green candles on the 5-minute, 15-minute, 30, 65 daily, weekly, monthly. Earnings report within the next 10 days. Dividends within the next 10 days. News since the last 10 days. Analyst estimates within the last 10 days. Candles. Different inside bar, outside bar. Hammer. The 50 being greater than the 100. The 100 being greater than the 200. These are lots of different things that I can include in my smart checklist and say, let me know if any of this stuff or all of this stuff or whatever is true or not. Let me go to another sample, or rather example. I want to go. Yeah, so this one's kind of interesting. This one is looking for RSI on the 5-minute less than 40, on the hourly less than 40, on the daily less than 40, on the 5-minute the 50 is greater than the 200, and then any of these candle patterns are forming on the 5-minute. And I could quickly see what if that is true. I know that the 50 is above the 200, but RSI is not below those values that I requested. And then I can see that this kicker candle is what we've got on the 5-minute. I didn't have to look at the chart to see. It just tells me. So think of it as like a complex, extensive indicator that can contain all of the conditions that you would want to know were true or not live instantly. If you have multiple time frames that you feel like need to be true, multiple time frame conditions that you feel like need to be true, or multiple indicator conditions that you feel like need to be true in order to want to take a trade or be willing to take a trade, that's like the easiest way to see all that stuff on the chart without actually seeing it all on the chart. Because if you have multiple time frames of conditions that you need to be true, then it might take you a minute to do your analysis, right? You got to jump through all the time frames. You got to add the indicators that make sense for that time frame and so on. That smart checklist is your way of avoiding that whole process and just making it effortless and easy. And let me show you this too. I'm going to go back. So I'm just going to pick something simple here. So what is this looking for? This is looking for the 20 crossed up on the 5. R-vol greater. That one's a little specific. I want to find something that's relatively simple. All right. MACD 5-minute cross down on signal. RSI is greater than 50. Price close greater than the price close 5 minutes ago. Or rather, I'm sorry, 5 candles ago. So I can go through my list here and notice how the smart checklist is changing per the ticker. So like on CAT, none of these conditions are true, whereas on Apple, 2 of them are true. The MACD didn't cross, but the other 2 conditions are true. So if you had a list of names that you like to watch and you had all of your conditions that have to be true to take a trade, to know whether or not you want to trade something, you literally would just shuffle through your list. Let's see if any of these are meeting this criteria. The MACD one is the tricky one. Looks like some of them have 2 of the conditions being met. None of them have all of the conditions being met. But I know that without having to look at every chart, right? So super, super cool little tool there. The main key for NVIDIA is 502, and they have lots of product. When you say they have lots of product, do you mean like they have like they have too much? Is that what you're saying? $502 being the previous all-time high. Yeah, 502.66. It'll definitely be interesting to see what they do here. But that's kind of where my head's at on it. Anything else you guys want to take a look at, or anything that you're curious about now that we've got a few of you guys here and you're chatting? I appreciate, very big thank you to all y'all for chatting. It makes my time hanging out here a lot easier when I've got folks to spend it with. I'm not going to be able to hang out super, super late today. Probably going to have to cap it at about an hour. You have an open source indicator that you use. 1TW. What's 1TW? It's a momentum indicator with some cool features. Any chance to transfer it? How is it scripted? Is it scripted in JavaScript, Kevin? If so, then absolutely. If not, if it's in like Pine, what you might want to do is you might want to try and utilize ChatGPT. Like load the Pine script into ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to rewrite it in JavaScript. And then just play around with it, I think. We could see. I would need to know a little bit more about it. I mean, worst case scenario, Kevin, is that we could reach out to support and ask them. They might be able to trading view Pine script. Got it. Yeah. Do you have a link to it? And do you have the Pine script? Excuse me, do you have the Pine script code? If so, we could tool around on it. I've never really tried to transfer something. I've never tried to utilize ChatGPT. Tried for hours. Darn. So you were trying with ChatGPT? Yeah, you can totally message me on Twitter. That's fine. Or you can ask support. It's up to you. Whatever you want to do. I mean, ultimately, where I would go with it is I would go to support. What's the indicator? What's it called? While we're waiting on Kevin with this indicator question, any other questions from you guys? Again, I have unfortunately a very busy day today, so I cannot hang out here too long. But I want to get as many questions answered as possible if you guys have them. CTRTSI. Adam, can you show how you would use the platform to see unusual, higher than normal volume early on in the trading day without specifying a specific Twitter or a specific ticker? Yeah, for sure. All right, so the way that I would do this is I would use RVol. If you're not familiar with RVol, we're talking about relative volume here. Relative volume is a lower indicator, but it's telling us something very, very basic. Are you familiar with RVol before I go into the explanation? If not, that's fine. We can talk about it. Relative volume is looking at the average volume relative to the current volume, or maybe you said a better way, the current volume relative to the average volume. If you have above average volume, you could see this green bar right here. The blue line is your average volume. And this is a 20 period SMA by default. So we're looking back 20 candles to determine an average. Okay, cool. Well, so I'm going to give a little lesson on RVol anyway. So your RVol value when you are at average, if your volume is the same as it is on average, then your RVol value is going to be 1. If your volume is above average, your RVol value will be greater than 1. If your current volume is below average, then your RVol value will be less than 1. So the simplest way that I can think of to look for abnormal volume early on in the day is I would use maybe like an hourly time frame or whatever makes sense for you. And I would scan it at the top of the day. Maybe the first, 5-minute candle, 15-minute candle. I don't know, whatever makes sense for you. And I would say indicator. Actually, let's just do this here. RVol greater than 1. So this creates the condition for me. RVol is greater than a constant value of 1. But that's not really all that impressive. Just being above average volume is kind of boring. So maybe we're looking for like 3x average volume. Switch this time frame to whatever makes sense, maybe the hourly. I'm going to turn the current candle toggle on because we want this looking at the current candle that's forming. If this is toggled off, it's going to look at the most recently closed candle. And in your first hour of the day, the most recently closed hourly candle is, you guessed it, it's the last hour of Friday, which means is meaningless. So you want to make sure current candle is toggled on. Choose your scan through list. Let's use the S&P 500 here. And then say scan. Now this is going to look for names in the S&P 500 that have an RVol of 3 on this hourly candle, the current one. So it is 11:51 right now, Eastern. Maybe we want to look back though. So maybe I want to actually say happened within. If I wanted to, so this is going to take into account maybe the past like 2 or 3. I guess let's just use 2, happened within the past 2. And so here's SWK. Let's go to the hourly here. Looks like SWK had quite a bit of volume. ILMN had quite a bit of volume. IQV, quite a bit of volume. You could take this a step farther. That's okay, Kevin. Don't worry about it. Adam, you could take this a step farther. You could say something like close greater than open, right? If you wanted to define green candle for that. Not only did you have above average volume, but it's a green candle as well. You might want to, obviously above average volume can come in both forms. But that is how I would think to do it. There's a secondary way that you could do it if you wanted. It's saying it the exact same way. Let me see how this works. I haven't ever tried this before in GPT conditions. Yeah, okay, cool. So volume vol greater than volume MA is the same thing as RVol, right? We're saying volume vol in the current candle. The volume on the current candle is greater than the average volume over the past 20. The other thing that you could do, Adam, is you could make this moving average length bigger to make it even kind of harder to meet the criteria. If your moving average length is bigger, then you're taking into account obviously more time, more volume, or more volume values. So it's a bigger average. Then maybe you could bring your RVol value down a little. You got Visa meeting that criteria. You got MCO, Moody's, and SWK meeting that criteria right now in the 500. So that's how I would do it. Adam, does that make sense? I want to say we probably have something like this pre-built. RVol. Yeah, RVol. Here's RVol greater than 0, 1, and 2 pre-built for you. So you can just grab this and send it over to the scanner. And it'll be built for you. And then you could just adjust this how you want. You would just, yeah, to see it in real time, you would have to just rerun the scan. If you're going to do that, what I would recommend is, let me see if I have anything that's pre-built for all. Yeah. So what I would do is I would come over to here and add a watch list. And I'll show you why, because you can load your scanners into your watch list. So I'll do that more slowly. You add a watch list, come to Dow Jones 30. This is the default watch list that's always going to load up initially. Click on that drop down menu, and then I've got some Arval stuff pre-built just that I use for myself, or that I've used in the past. So I don't think you'll see any of this stuff in yours, but if you save a scanner, an Arval scanner, you'll be able to grab it from here, and then it'll run on this side. And that way, you have the names meeting the criteria right here. And it doesn't take up your chart view. It's just prettier. It's just a nicer way of going about doing things. Having your scanner over here. And also that makes it a little bit easier just to kind of, anytime you want to, you just hit this refresh button and it'll rerun the scan for you. Is there a way to run the scan through all US indices instead of having to do them separately? Alexis, unfortunately, there is not a way to do that at this time. Perhaps in the future we'll bring that functionality, but at this time it's not possible. And you do, just kind of to be clear, you do have to manually rerun the scans whenever you want to rerun them. You can rerun them as many times as you want, but you do have to do it manually. So that's how I'd be doing it, Adam. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Okay, great. Awesome. Adam, how long have you been with us here at TrendSpider? And also, a huge thank you to you for being a TrendSpider trader. We appreciate it very much. Alexis, you're new here. I haven't seen you before. Do you have any other questions? I'm coming up to the end of my time here. I'm running out of time. Normally I would stick around a bit longer. I've just got so much to do today. You joined last Christmas during a sale. Okay, cool. And what plan do you have? You said you wanted to upgrade. What plan do you currently have now? Yeah, Adam, definitely. The information overload is real. There's a lot of tools here, for sure. And, that's really part of why we created the assistant. The assistant is really meant to be a way for you to find the things that you're looking for quite more easily. So if you're ever on the hunt for something, got it. Okay, cool. Right on. If you're ever on the hunt for anything on the platform, the assistant is your friend. Type in the thing that you might be after. Again, like I said, you can add, I don't know, let's say VBP. You can add indicators to your chart by just searching and selecting. It can do complex tasks though too. You see some options here. These are just some examples. If you want to see, I don't know, SPY, unusual options. See all unusual options for SPY. There are also options here where it's like sweeps greater than $1 million. Sweeps greater than $1 million just for SPY, for both the SPY and the Qs. Sweep calls above the ask, sweep puts below the bid. You can get, you can really mix it up here. Right on, yeah, having multiple workspaces is great. Having lots of alerts is great, especially if you trade lots of different names. One cool thing, I don't know if you've seen this on the alerts, but if I create, let's say I create, I don't know, I'm just gonna just do something simple. I grab a MACD cross up, right? And I create this alert. I send it to the name that I'm looking at. I want to be alerted on a MACD cross, right? Because this is a multi-factor alert, what I can then do, if I go to another name and I want to put that same alert on another name, I can just if I'm on the name that I want to put the alert on my chart, I come over to the alert that I want to copy. And I use this little piece of paper icon. You see how it says now create multi-factor alert on ONDS, the exact same alert. I'm just going to remove the copy from the title and say create. And so now that same alert is on ONDS. And I can just go down my list and pick the names that I want that alert to be on, copy the alert, create it, and I'm off to the races. So kind of a cool little functionality. Not sure if you're familiar with that copy paste methodology for the alerts, but certainly helpful if you're not. So y'all, I am, yeah. See, you're always learning new things, right? You've been here for a year, and there's still plenty of stuff to learn. So I'm going to do another one of these on Wednesday. I'll be back in the morning on Wednesday, just hanging out again. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to, give us a follow here on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. You'll be notified that we have another office hours coming. I'm sorry that I can't be here longer. I really would like to be, but yeah. And as I said before, I'm going to remove me for a moment. If you have any questions, please do feel free to reach out to the team. They are there live answering those questions for you all day. They'll be happy to assist you however they can assist you. Adam, I'll check my DMs here. Oh, you didn't DM me. You reached out to support directly. Cool. Well, if anybody wants to, feel free to shoot me a follow on Twitter. Again, it's Krutzky Trades. That is my Twitter handle. My DMs are open. If you have questions, you're more than welcome to reach out anytime. I'm happy to answer them. If any of you guys are trading NVIDIA today or tomorrow, best of luck. We'll be back. Like I said, we'll be back Wednesday morning to mop up and see how things are looking over there on NVIDIA and just talk shop. Answer, again, any TrendSpider related questions that you guys might have. So with that, I am going to sign off. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. Hope you have a great week. If I don't see you in here on Wednesday morning, happy holidays to you all. Hope you have an awesome Thanksgiving for those of you who celebrate. And yeah, we'll chat again real soon. All right, guys, take care.